The mayor of Georgetown, Texas, Josh Schroeder, joins us now. Georgetown is just north of Austin. Mayor Schroeder, thank you for being with us. I understand that power has been restored to Georgetown, but like much of Texas, parts of your city still remain under a boil water advisory. How long will it take to get clean water again?
Sure. Georgetown operates about a 400 square mile water utility service area. And right now, I believe we've got about 4,000 folks within that entire system that are on a boil water notice still. We've got a few folks that have very, very low pressure or no water. And we are powerizing the system and from the inside out. And those folks should have water and be off their boil water notice very, very shortly. One of the issues you run into is once a boil water notice is issued, you've got to test that water and get clearance from the state before you can take that boil water notice down. And obviously, every city and utility in the state of Texas is trying to get their water tested and run through the state. And so that's taking a little bit of time. But in the meantime, we're delivering potable water to all of those areas that are affected right now. And then we've also got lots of folks in our nonprofit and faith community that are also delivering water to those areas.
Well, the whole nation has been watching this really difficult week for your state. And like so many other Texans, we understand that your pipes froze and burst as well. How has the whole crisis affected you? And what suggestions do you have for other folks who are coping with these emergencies?
Sure, yeah. I'm a little bit disheveled this morning because like a lot of folks, we had a pipe burst and had a neighbor call and tell us that water was shooting out the side of our house. And so we had to go shut the water down and then cap that pipe and get on the list for plumbers to come by and help take care of that issue. What I would tell folks is, if you have a major issue, you need to shut the water off the street and get a plumber in there as soon as possible. The city is responsible for fixing any leaks that's on the other side, on the city side of the street, and we're actively pursuing all of those. There's no question that we're going to get some more of those as things begin to thaw out and pipes, burst like they do in cold weather events like this. But we have been on top of those from day one and will continue to be. But also, I think another lesson there is just, help your neighbors out. If someone loses water, community needs to come surround them and help them get through this mess. And that's how we've gotten through with lots of help from friends and neighbors who immediately jumped to the call the moment we had an issue.
We have seen some of those wonderful stories apparent there in Texas. But I want to talk to you also about another problem, these food shortages. They've been reported across the state. How bad is it where you are, and how are you all dealing with the problem?
It's not great right now. We've got some great grocery store chains here in Texas, H-E-B and others, and they are about as organized and on top of things as you could ever want your grocery stores to be. They've had issues with their own power being out that has caused them to lose some of their perishable goods. They're actively restocking. We actually made a run to the grocery store this morning since we had a little bit of sunshine. And there were certainly lots of empty shelves, but there was also plenty of food available in the grocery store. Maybe not the exact thing you wanted, but there was food there. But also we have seen, again, kind of come back to the nonprofit and faith community. My wife and other folks from our church were out delivering pizza to apartments and folks that had been without power or water. And lots of other folks were doing the same. And the community really has stepped up and helped out to get food to people who need it.
Georgetown has run solely on renewable energy since 2015, and we heard some Texas politicians blame green energy for the problems there. So in some ways, your city is a proof point. How long did it take Georgetown's power to get back up and running following the storm, and how does that compare with other Texas cities?
Sure. Well, as much as renewable energy seems to be kind of the topic of the day, it really has nothing to do with our power situation. Georgetown has energy contracts with some renewable energy generators, but we don't take that power directly from those generators. That power is created and then gets kind of dumped onto the grid like every other source of power in the state. And so we're pulling power just like every other city in the state from that grid, and where it originates from has really no impact on how much electricity we get. It really just has an impact on how much we pay for our electricity. And so when the grid, was stressed these last few days, we were stressed just like everybody else. It didn't matter what our energy contracts were. We were still being curtailed by ERCOT at a rate of almost 40% of our normal power usage, and we were rolling blackouts just like everybody else. Georgetown does operate its own utility system, and so when we had outages from ice and trees downing and things like that, we were able to jump very quickly on and address those issues as they came up. And we feel like we did a really good job of that, all things considered, in light of this once in a lifetime storm. But we were subject to the rolling blackouts just like everybody else in the state.
Once in a lifetime storm, but I was down there covering Hurricane Harvey, and it seems like Texas has been battered with multiple once in a lifetime weather emergencies. Do you think that Texas officials and federal officials are taking away enough lessons from these crises to try and prevent future crises from happening in your state?
Well, I hope so. I mean, we say once in a lifetime, but you're correct. We had a major power issue in the late 80s, early 90s. We had another one in 2011, a similar occurrence. And I think, Governor Abbott has framed the discussion correctly, that as a state, we're going to have to decide whether or not we're willing to pay the cost to have extra power generation waiting for an event such as this. I mean, in Texas, we've had a lot of power, and a lot of power at very low cost for a long time. But part of that deregulated market is that, things like this can happen. And so we're going to have to make some very tough decisions, as a state, as to whether or not we're willing to pay what it costs to have power generation available in the event that something like this happens again in the near future.
Mayor Josh Schroeder, thanks for joining us. Best wishes to you and to all the people there in Texas.
Thank y'all so much, and just appreciate everyone around the country keeping us in their thoughts and prayers.